VS Code's built-in JavaScript debugger includes pretty print functionality that makes it easy to debug minified scripts. You may run into these minified scripts if you're using a bundling process or if you're dealing with third-party code. Let's take a look at this in this simple Node.js script here. So I'm going to start debugging the script using a JavaScript debug terminal, which I'll create by opening the command palette with Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P and saying debug terminal, and I want the debug create JavaScript terminal here. When I run this command, you can see that VS Code has created a new terminal down here, and if I run any node commands in here, VS Code will automatically attach. So now to actually start debugging the script, all I have to do is say node and then the script name here, so cluster.js. And you can see that VS Code has now launched this script, it's attached to it automatically, and it's hit the first breakpoint here. Now you can see that on this line where the breakpoint is, we're importing the micromatch library and then making a call into it. And if we actually step into this code, you can see that inside of this file itself, this file has been minified, so it's very difficult to tell where we currently are. There's pretty much just a single line that has all the logic right here, and we can see that it's very difficult to understand what is going on. Now VS Code can automatically detect that this file has been minified and will alert us and say, hey, do you want to go and pretty print it? There's also a command that you can run from the command palette. So I could go into the command palette and say pretty print to go and manually pretty print this file. What pretty printing will do is expand this file out. So let me get a little bit more space here so that it now takes up multiple lines. Each statement will be on its own line here. It's much easier to debug and much easier to understand what the logic of this code now is. Now, the important thing to note about pretty printing is that it does not touch the file on disk. This is only the representation that we're using to debug. So the original file on disk has not actually been rewritten or touched in any way, but now we have a much easier to work with file representation here. We can use the step over commands, the step into commands, all these normal things, the same way that we would in a normal file here. It's just a whole lot easier to debug this than the minified code. Again, you may run into minified code if you're working with some sort of bundling process or in third-party libraries. So that's how the pretty print functionality from VS Code's built-in JavaScript debugger makes it easier to work with and debug minified scripts.